Welcome to the Lovecars On the Grid podcast, your global motorsport roundup with me, Tiff, Needell and Paul Woodman.
Welcome to Lovecars On the Grid, your global motorsport podcast roundup. What a weekend of motorsport. All I'm going to say is Halo. But it was Silverstone for the Grand Prix, F1, F2, F3. There was Porsche, there was WSeries, and British drivers were on the podiums aplenty, which is good to see. IndyCar and NASCAR didn't really deliver that much. I think even you'll agree. Formula E, Marrakesh. But DTM try hard.
They try very hard to entertain.
We've got to kick off with just the most incredible weekend, a record-breaking weekend at Silverstone, Formula One. And it was a script of Hollywood, wasn't it? It was just brilliant for Carlos Sainz, by the way. Amazing.
I was actually there on the Sunday, which I enjoyed being a grandstand like a race fan. But Saturday I was at home, watching on telly. We start with qualifying. Qualifying was so dramatic. The conditions were changing, second by second. The tyres were getting off, and the track was getting a dry line. Then it rained again. And just to go through qualifying, a couple of notes. Poor Aston Martin. Their home race. There was a bit of fuss, wasn't it? They've copied Red Bull. They mustn't do that. And yet they qualified 18th and 20th, 7 laps. So really did. Also, just Alex Albon. Don't know quite what went wrong with him. Again, unless you analyse every lap to see who spun, because Alex was about 12th, I think, in the dry SP3. He was 16th, but Nicholas Latifi. We're all saying, brilliant. Nicholas, just go do an IndyCar. Just go away, take your dad's money, go somewhere else. And yet he pulled 10th place out of the bag. So real big up for Nicholas Latifi.
But Tiff, answer this for me then. So when it's wet, there was a little bit of dry line, but it was wet. So it's all about, for me, driver ability. Why was it still Red Bull and Ferrari and then Mercedes? Why didn't some amazing Lando's brilliant in the wet.
No, it's still sadly
Lance
too much.
Stroll was brilliant in the wet.
In fact, the funny thing is, the good old days back when because in fact, I'll bring my name up as an example here. Sometimes a crap car like the 1980 Ensign at the Monaco Grand Prix, because they were soft. It was all about torsion rigidity, and the Ensign that I raced, was rubbish at the back of the grid, was very soft and rolled. So in the wet, the crap car in the dry, because ground effects are coming big time with sliding skirts and everything. If you had the torsion rigidity, if you took that car out in the wet, so I qualified 19th in the wet qualifying session, 1,000th of a second when Alan Prost in his Renault. But there were those occasions when the rubbish car went brilliant in the wet. Unfortunately, I don't think that is now the case. It doesn't seem to happen as much as it used to. But it definitely, torsion rigidity was a massive thing about 1980 upwards that scientists and engineers hadn't really sussed. So there were the days when a rubbish car was good in the wet, but not anymore. It's still the chassis more important than the driver. But Max and Charles, they both had spins, the qualifying session. George made a mistake. He was only 8th, and then Carlos almost surprised himself, didn't he? The post-qualifying, he sort of said, I didn't think I was doing that well, but it's so hard.
Nervous laugh. It's a little giggle. It's a nervous laugh when you have it on the radio. Did I?
Yeah, no. Because you don't really know how well you're doing in a wet, because you've got nothing to judge. Because every lap, the conditions were changing. So it's not as if you had a constant sort of feel for a corner or a lap, but it was brilliant stuff.
I can add that only 2 weeks ago that I had that exact Carlos moment around Silverstone because I got pole position. I came into the pits and the race controller put his finger up to me like that, and I was sort of looking around as if to say, "Who's he pointing at?"
It was me. It is because Guanyu Zhou, he had an impressive 9th as well, but his joy obviously didn't last very long. But
we'll come on to that in a moment.
Yeah, so qualifying was entertaining. Then the race just kicked off with, this horrendous-looking shunt. It was just unbelievable. Which George, sadly, you can't lay blame. I think Button was mentioning it. George did move over. It just moved over to the left when he didn't really need to. Because Latifi had actually gone between Zhou and George. Latifi made an amazing start from 10th to go between 8th and 9th, George and Latifi. So I think then it was Gasly, wasn't it? So Gasly thought, I'll have a bit of that. So he started to creep through the gap. And then George just moved left that wall, just 2 feet, 3 feet. caught the front of Gasly's car, which turned him left straight into the side of Zhou, and Zhou was then flying. But so fine margins.
Skidding upside down. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen it, but there's been lots of clips from people that were in the stand where it came into as well, which is frightening, really. But Halo came to the rescue, and it was great to see.
But he was trapped in the car. That's the scariest thing. Those people in the grandstands, they were right over the top of the car, and no driver came. I don't know how long. We were sitting in the grandstands, and it seemed about half an hour before they told us that Zhou was walking and he was fine. But obviously, I'd love to see a film how they got him out. I don't actually know, because he was just trapped between the back of the guardrail and the fence and his halo. I'm not actually sure whether they lifted the car before he could crawl out, or whether he crawled out unaided. But
so go back to Bahrain where we go back with Romain Grosjean, who had the
Grosjean. We went through the barrier, the barrier. But
there's a fireball. First lap, you're full of fuel. Crikey, Zhou's got to be thinking to himself, I am so happy that my car didn't burst into flames there, because he would have been...
Because, Roman tried to get out upwards, which is the logical first way, and found that the crash and the halo was in the way. And then he went downwards. He was able to go down now, because his chassis was also on its side. I know you think
I got so much respect for that man, not for his driving in Formula One. He was
we'll come to Roman later, because he was in the controversy at the IndyCar race last weekend. But
for him to have that peace of mind to get out.
But I don't think he did get out. I think they had to maybe pull the car. I don't know. But I'm impressed to know how.
Maybe somebody does know. Anyway, but let's move on to the race, because Carlos...
We waited an hour, by the way, the grandstands. We waited an hour. I mean, sometimes you do wonder how long it takes to reboot an FIA. I know, they've got to rebuild the track and get all the cars out of the pits.
Crazy.
One hour. I've been waiting for a restart.
Really milking it. And because it was a restart, and they didn't do a lap, all the cars didn't go past the red flag.
Went back to the grid,
back to the grid, which poor old Lewis, because he did well.
But also, Max started the first run on reds, because he was on the inside, which was the dirty side of Silverstone. And when he outran Sainz into turn one at the first start. And yet when he came to the restart, they put him on yellows, and he got out-dragged by Sainz in the grippier side. So, Sainz managed to lead into turn one and did a pretty good job for about 10 laps before he fell off under pressure at the Beckett's bypass, as I call it, and let Max by. And we all thought, that's it. Okay, that's it. Boring race now. And Max would have run away with it, because he had the quickest car in the drive by far, until he bumped into a bit of AlphaTauri bodywork and went backwards fast. So then built for us spectators, we're all... And the great thing about being there live, I was at a grandstand at the Brooklands Luffield thing, you hear the crowd, when Max fell out, they're all cheering and, roaring. And then later on, every time Lewis was getting inch by inch closer to the Ferraris, you could hear the crowd, you hear them. Yeah.
Actually, that was evident on the TV. You could hear the crowd, which is...
Could you? Yeah. And Charles, of course, then Leclerc had no wing end plate. Perez had been into the pits. We thought we'd lost Perez forever, until later in the story, some bloke called Checo Perez reappeared out of the blue, having been almost last, I think, going to pit for a new nose job. And there was just so much drama going on in different parts of the field. But I mean, we all loved it. And the Ferrari, I despair. I know people out there will say, oh, we love the let them race radio message. But no, grow up. This is Grand Prix motor racing. I'm running Ferrari. I want a Ferrari driver to win the World Drivers' Championship. I want Ferrari to win the men's matches. I'm paying you two kids, I don't know, 10 million, 20 million. I don't know how much I'm paying you. I'm paying Carlos Sainz at least 10 million pounds. And if my driver that's got more points than the other driver catches you up, then you let him by straight away. You don't say, oh, Carlos Delta this or, Delta that. Not Carlos. You say, let him by. He's quicker than you. He's our championship leader. I mean, it should be instant.
I agree. I
can't understand team managers pandering to their precious drivers. Are we allowed to race? No. I'm paying you £10 million to move over.
I agree. But then on the flip side, you've also got to take into account that if the other driver's holding them up, let the other one go. So you've got to give your team the best possible chance. But you want your driver and you want to win.
But the crowd was loving it. There's Lewis tracking them down. You know,
so
Charles
talking about the crowd, there were some boos for Max Verstappen, which I don't think anyone.
Oh, don't go on the boos. For good, even George Russell disappointed me. You know, on a parade lap, someone in the spectator heckled me and called me a name. Come, George, come on. I love you, George. You're a real star of the future, but don't get on this bandwagon. I mean, footballers get shouted at every day.
I was just going to say the same
Cricket,
thing.
I mean, for goodness sake. And
footballers on 250,000 a week are complaining that somebody called me a name. Give me 250 grand a week, and you can call me. We get called all sorts of names anyway.
And then Lewis said, "Oh, don't boo Max! Don't boo." For goodness' sake, Max was the biggest enemy of the whole of Britain at Abu Dhabi a year ago. Of course they're going to boo him. Of course they're going to cheer. That's part of being a fan. You're letting your emotion out. You know, you as an emotional person, you cheer when Max does well, not when Lewis does well, and you boo when Max does well. It's just part of sport. I mean, oh dear.
So I like a bit of heckling as well, and I think people have got to realise. My mum always said to me, "Sticks and stones will break your bones, but names will never burn you."
You can't say that anymore, Paul. You're way out.
We're all
sitting in the grandstands, and we're thinking, "Oh, this is it," you know, Lewis. And then they all pitted for another set of tyres, didn't they? And then it was back to where they were. Sainz was leading again, and Leclerc was catching up again, and Lewis had a bad pit stop, and we thought, "Oh, that might be it. He might catch," you know. And actually, you remember Carlos said to the Ferrari, make sure Leclerc stays within, gives me DRS, and I'll hold off Lewis. So he's literally saying, asking the team to make Charles slow down so that he keeps DRS so he can stay ahead of Lewis. I mean, whichever modern day.
No way would I do that. If I was Leclerc, I would have just gone.
I know. He was good. He did go, but then of course the bloody pace car came out because Esteban parking it up. But now it was funny because after the pacing car, I hadn't really sussed it out. So I'm watching the safety car, Formula One, sorry, pace car, not pace. When they all regrouped, I suddenly saw Perez in fourth. I thought, oh, hold on a minute. I mean, Lando was fourth, Alonso was fifth, and Perez was sixth and well behind. And it was only when I actually looked at the results, I realised that both Lando and Carlos had stopped, not Carlos, Lando and Fernando, stopped just before, about 3 or 4 laps before the safety car. And that's when Perez got by them. And then, of course, when the safety car came out, they could all stop for their red tyres. So really, Sergio being there, full with Checo, what his name's. And then we had this race to the finish, you know, with just mental. Leclerc stuck on white tyres like poor old Lewis was at Abu Dhabi last year. And I have to say, I thought Charles' defensive driving on Nacken was magnificent. You know, I mean, he's a
phenomenal driver.
Fought everybody, for every place. You know, he was busy holding off Perez when Lewis got both of them. And then bizarrely, Lewis was an outbreak immediately. But it was just mayhem. The crowd were up on their feet and
he's getting quite aggressive, though. I think I don't know whether he's always been like that, but he seemed to be really aggressive, Charles, even in the early laps. Which,
but fair, you know. But it was.
But Silverstone, you can do that. It's such a big circuit. It was a really fantastic Grand Prix. Plenty of overtaking, loads of overtaking opportunities.
Yeah.
Well, not just with the 2 DRS points.
Yeah. We made Guanyu obviously brilliant that he got out from stuck behind the barriers, but of course the biggest hit was actually by Alexander Albon. You know, got rear-ended by Sebastian Vettel, but they all braked hard, obviously with chaos ahead of them. But Vettel smacked at the back of Alexander's Williams and turned him sharp right into the wall. So commiserations to Williams. And poor old Latifi, he fought so hard, but he just gradually faded backwards and backwards. And mind you, he's not the most impressed driver there because he still held off Daniel Ricciardo. I mean, he just had horrendous. Apparently, the race, his DRS didn't work. That's his only excuse, but he shouldn't have been back there in the first place. But and then the battle between Mick Schumacher and Max that went to the last corner of the last lap, and there was just so much going on. It was just a fantastic Grand Prix to be there for, you know. Because, I mean, they're great Grand Prix when things go a bit wrong and, you know, someone's out of place or someone's got the wrong tyres and the strategy. And Because when they're all on the same tyres, they can't overtake. I mean, even with DRS, Leclerc couldn't get by Sainz, even though he was constantly in the DRS zone. But it was a brilliant weekend, a brilliant Grand Prix.
It was. Right, I'm going to give you another. I'm going to throw a bit of a spanner in the works now. Brilliant Grand Prix, amazing for Carlos Sainz, as we said at the beginning, pole position and winning as well. So that's some way to get your first pole and your first win.
And the cheer from the British crowd, just to say they weren't all going for the Hamilton. They were roaring when Sainz got in the lead and went on to win. I think everybody loves him, and it was a great result for everyone.
He's annoyingly good looking and nice, isn't he? He's just one of those really talented, good looking, nice, rich.
And his dad was quite good at rallying as well. Yeah.
So I'm going to throw something else into the mix now. Nelson Piquet, Formula One world champion.
Yes.
Said a bad word, and it was because of course Yuri Vips, who's now been allowed back into race.
Well, only because his team allowed him to, and it wasn't the FIA. Maybe didn't want it. Red Bull didn't want it, but the team said, "No, come on, get out there." And he finished a quite reasonable 8th or something.
Yeah, same word, completely different context. But what's your take on Nelson? It was a bit of a personal attack on, because of course his son to be is a certain Max Verstappen as well.
Well, Max is going out with Nelson's nephew, Nelson's daughter, or Nelson's niece.
Nelson's daughter.
So Max comes out and defends him. He's not a racist, and then I think even Nelson's mother or Nelson's daughter said his grandmother used to call them that name in a Spanish version of it, not the name that's an American word. Portuguese, sorry. Yeah. And I'm a BRDC member. And they immediately took away his membership. And I don't know. I think you've got... And everybody, decried Nelson and withdrew all, and he's got no tickets and can't go anywhere. But he apologised, and I don't know. It's so hard. We've got to stamp out racism. But so many people are saying this word they grew up with. It's a word they grew up with. Maybe not the kids, but then the kids are listening to rap music from American black rappers that use the word.
I think there was intent with what he said. How he said it, I think there was a little bit of nasty intent there, which
Nelson's always been a bit edgy. He said something very rude about Nigel Mansell's wife, and he shouldn't have. And he's always been a bit like that.
Did you race against him, Tiff?
Yeah, but he was my big contemporary. He won the Formula 3 championship in 78 when I was 4th in the championship. So we raced a lot together in 1978 in Formula 3. A lot of fun together. Yeah, I was a big friend of his. But these words come out in moments when they shouldn't. And then, you're just a pariah forever. But Nelson's got a bit of history. That is just an extra one on top of Nelson's.
We can't
list.
leave without thinking and reminiscing, for those of you that are old enough to know Murray Walker, how he used to say Nelson Piquet. You remember that? Nelson Piquet! It's absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's move on to Formula 2. And we talk about Halo. We had an even bigger crash, even bigger Halo crash going into Vale with Formula 2. I don't want to just focus on a crash because it was pretty tasty race as well. But the Halo saved
Roy Nissany. But you could say he deserved what he got, because Nissany, he pushed poor old Dennis Hauger out, broke his tyre coming out of Stowe Corner. So Nissany put him on the dirt with a puncture. And then Nissany's coming around the very tight club chicane, and then Hauger, with no control at all, was coming down to T-bone him, and the curb leapt him up in the air and landed on top. It was I finally worked out how skateboarders jump in the air now, because I've never understood, how do you do that? How do you make a skateboard jump with your feet upwards? Did you see? Because when what's his name? Hauger landed on Nissany. Nissany's car jumped up completely off the ground. And it's because you can press something on its springs, it jumps. But that's what I guess what skateboarders do. Anyway, yes, he landed right where his head was, right on the halo. So, when people are saying we should change the curbs again, but you can't keep on changing curbs everywhere.
Abby Eaton is a massive advocate of changing sausage.
But what do you put? If you put a flat curb there, drivers will just put two wheels completely off the road. You then track every corner, be track limited for apexes and exits. It's bad enough sorting out exit curbs, and now you've got to sort out apex curbs, which are ones that, because they're big, the drivers do tend to follow. Yeah, it was a horror shunt. I don't know. But if you put a gravel trap there, then the car coming off the road would just shovel a beach full of gravel onto the racetrack, and then it's all. In fact, when I talk about rubbish on tracks and carbon fibre bits, I've got a brilliant idea I've thought of, and I want to get sponsored from Stihl or something, because you see these marshals out brooming with a brush bits of carbon fibre. That's not going to get every bit. Leaf blowers. Why are our marshals still a manufacturer? I want a cut here. I want a leaf blower manufacturer to sponsor all the marshals, because how much better would that be? You run out with leaf blowers, which aren't so tiring. I mean, it's exhausting with a broom. You know, it's like brooming something. What are you laughing? It's a very serious, brilliant idea that you run out with leaf blowers. 10 leaf blowers.
Do you need more leaf blowers for your garden? Is this an angle for you to get more leaf blowers for your garden?
I'm thinking more of I want a cash kickback from Stihl. Hello, Stihl. Tiff.tv is my website. Contact through tiff.tv, and we can do a deal for 1,000 leaf blowers.
On
Great
the Grid
advertising for leaf
podcast
blowers.
brought to you by Stihl leaf blowers. It's got a nice ring to it.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the Formula 2 race. Whereas every other race on the card was exciting, well, apart from maybe the WSeries, we'll get back to that later. There's a problem with Formula 2 that happens every time. Because they have to change the tyres, there's this huge strategy swap between those that will start on the reds, the softest, and those will then start on the yellow or the white. I don't know what the choice was this weekend for Formula 2. And you have this horrible period in the middle of the race, from about a third distance. All the ones on the soft tyres stop and put the hard ones on. Whilst all the hard ones stay out. And then from 1/3 to 2/3 of the race, you've got 6 people on hard tyres running first to 6th, and then 20 seconds behind is the rest of the pack on red tyres. And so you just don't know. You're just waiting to find out when the front pack pit for their tyre change to see how they come out. You don't really know them. The commentators always pretend they're going to come out right in the same pack. But whenever they do, they never come out. And it's just boring. It's a boring, boring thing with 6 cars out on the road. There's 6 cars behind that have done their tyre change. And eventually, 5 laps before the end, you find out whose strategy is right. And then you might have a bit of a race for 5 laps. So Formula 2, please make them all start on one tyre and all finish on the other tyre. And then we'll have proper racing. There'll still be that who can make the tyre last the longest. If someone goes too fast too soon on the red tyre, they'll have to pit earlier than others. But don't have this split strategy Formula 2. It just makes for dull racing. It's the only race we didn't have a British driver on the podium at all. Congratulations to Mick Doohan, the motorbike world champion's son, who won the reverse grid race, which is his first Formula 2 win. But he qualified 7th fastest, 4th on the grid, reverse grid. An American Logan Sargent winning the feature race. So great for him. It's his first Formula 2 win, and he's only won one Formula 3 race, and that was at Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. He obviously loves the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. But it's hard. We don't know how good he is. We're looking for an American superstar. Great, I'm sure Liberty are as well, whether they grab someone from IndyCar. So is it time to take Logan Sargent? He was a sensation in karting. I mean, he won everything in karting. But in Formula 3, he only won 3 wins in 3 years. It wasn't really a sensation. He was always qualifying, And in Formula 2, he's up there on podiums, but never quite getting there. So I don't know what a Logan Sargent is going to be.
I want to see some young people in Formula 1. Get rid of some of the old guys. I know the old guys bring charisma and they sell more T-shirts with their name on it.
Let's get Logan Sargent in. Good name. He's won a Formula 2 race.
Yeah.
I don't think Yuki Tsunoda may be looking for a drive next year after his clashing into his teammate at Silverstone. And it's funny that all the teams, they defend their non-performing number 2 driver, don't they? Whether it's Stroll or Latifi or Yuki, the teams they're all very supportive, which I like.
Yeah, but like we mentioned last week, Red Bull never did, and they don't. And if you're not performing, you're number 2 driver.
Yeah, but there's the Honda element of the engine that I'm still not sure. Obviously, sponsors Yuki, maybe. I don't know. Sadly, in Formula 2 this year, we haven't really got any regular front runners. Jake Hughes was 10th and Ollie Coolwell 17th. But Formula 3, we've got this trio of young talent, which we really hope they'll be moving up to F2. The Formula 3 race is a cracker. I mean, we're sitting in the grandstand 8:35 in the morning.
I saw,
empty grandstand. Yeah. I was there hosting this Motor Passion company, which I do some corporate work for, you know, and I managed to get 6 of my guests in. Yeah, they were in the BRDC for lunch, and that was the BRDC grandstand. So even the BRDC members weren't in the grandstand. They're all the clubhouse. You can see the race as well. So fair enough, you don't have to be the grandstand.
So that overlooks Brooklands, is that right, Tiff?
Yeah, Brooklands Corner. I think I was there on the BRDC when I saw someone crash controversially.
Somebody crashed into me.
Yeah, possibly, maybe. Anyway, the sprint race on the Saturday on telly was one, but it's very impressive. Again, talking about Red Bull, this French kid called Isaac Hadjar. He's ninth. No, he was fifth on the grid or something. I don't know where he was on the bloody reverse grid. He was fifth, I think, and he battled through to win. Really good overtaking moves, kept his tyres well. But funny enough, he's got Red Bull money. But then I look back at his strategy, his history, I mean, and he's only finished like thirds his best championship, whether it's Formula 4 or Formula Renault. He's never been a star coming up, and yet he got the Red Bull gig. And I'd love to know how you get a Red Bull gig, because all the youngsters need a Red Bull gig. But he was really impressive. And in the main race, he got from ninth on the grid, which is his real qualifying position, to fifth in the main race. So I was really impressed with Isaac Hadjar. But anyway, forget him for a moment. We've got a British driver, Zach O'Sullivan on pole position, the Autosport Award winner. Fantastic. He hasn't done that well this year. His first season of Formula 3. He led for a bit, but couldn't quite hold back Arthur Leclerc, Charles's brother, who actually won the race. Zach was second. Ollie Behrman, who another British talent, battled through from fourth or fifth to third with some great overtaking manoeuvres. But a special mention for our third Brit, which is Johnny Edgar, the kid who was he's a Red Bull boy, and then he had all this Crohn's disease, you know, and he couldn't do the first half of this season. So he's had his first race back since recovering from Crohn's disease. Qualified 14th, got to fifth, and then I think he was probably knackered, poor kid, because he hasn't raced for 3 months, and he faded back to 8th. So Johnny Edgar, well done. You've come, you know, to have Crohn's, have to sort of interrupt your dream, you know, to go to hospital and get treated and to come back again.
It's an awful disease to have that positive mental attitude and fight it like that. It's just brilliant. Yeah, really good.
Porsche Supercup, the other race on the morning.
Yeah. That's always entertaining.
Not as much over the midfield pack, you know, a bit like BTCC. It was like BTCC, in fact, now I thought about it.
The problem is those cars around Silverstone, they are going to be a bit processional, aren't they, around Silverstone?
Yeah, but the midfield pack, they're all hitting each other. There's a bit of, you know, laughs going on. But Harry King was our British kid who's out there doing the whole season, and he qualified third, and he actually got to second at turn 1, but got pushed back. And he actually spent more time trying to keep third from his teammate who was pushing him than challenging the two leaders. But it was great from Harry. And who was Handin? I haven't written his name down. Haddin. Sorry, mate. Forgotten your name. A good 5th place as well. Hanfin. It's a quickie name, that one. So some British interest in Super Cup. Not the most exciting race. I think Formula 3 was the best support race. They were really having at it.
Wait, hang on. Whoa.
Round the outside.
No, you're missing one. WSeries. Surely that must be the best.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
Surely that must be the best support race of the Formula 1.
No, it wasn't. It was boring.
It was. I'm really frustrated with WSeries, I have to say.
It's not. Well, the gaps. I mean, Silverstone, long circuit, technical, difficult. I mean, they were just spread out. You know, I mean, the first 3 in the race were like 20 seconds ahead of 4th place. I mean, Alice Powell, sadly, you know, who won the event last year. She had an awful time.
Can I just take you back a little bit there? These are identical. These cars are all identical. It's not like Formula 1 where you've got they've got much more money and resource and they've got much better cars. These cars are identical. So to have 20-second gaps in a race like that is just unheard of. You never get that in Caterham, let me tell you.
There aren't that many talented ladies yet. Hopefully they're going to attract more carters. That's their long-term aim. But I was tweeting against Motorsport UK, they were going on about their women's incentives that they're doing. I said, well, how many, you know, are we getting more girls buying kart licenses, age 8, 9, 10? That's what, if it's working.
Look at the stats.
But you know, to have Jamie
someone's
Chadwick,
got the stats out there.
But I couldn't get answers. I'll have to phone them up. I know you can do that. I'll get bluffed away. Oh well, that's, you know, we can't give that information out public if you'd have to have something. But you know, Jamie Chadwick just romped off into the distance. You know, as I said, Alice Powell had this awful. First, she was put back 2 places for track limits. And I think she appealed and went back to 3rd. And she stalled on the grid and the green flag lap, and then she regained her position too late on the lap. was given a drive-through for that. So Alice had a nightmare who could have challenged Jamie, one of the drivers who can.
She's one of the few people that can, yeah.
Yeah. But then, she's, getting up high 20s, 30s. I mean, she's not going to be a Grand Prix driver. So I mean, they're just females that are advertising female racing. And the youngest, Abby Pulling. I mean, Abby Pulling's, she's quick, but good, I mean, she was in Formula 4 for 2 years. She couldn't win a Formula 4 race against all the... Anyway, you can't go to all the stats all the time. But she made the race interesting. She caught up with Emma Kimmerlein and clobbered into her. She was trying to get second place on the penultimate lap. Both spun out. And because they were 20 seconds ahead of fourth place, they still finished second and third, despite having a clash and spinning. And now Abby...
Go on.
Abby's now got second place, but she's got half the points of Jamie Chadwick up front.
But Chadwick's
on for another $500,000.
Another $500,000. Look, we love... She's the most talented driver in the world, female driver in the world. Ollie Chadwick.
No, she's not the most talented female driver. Semester Di Silvone.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Most successful in a
single-seater.
Very female-only race series.
Well, this is my point. So Ollie's a mate of mine who's a brother. I like Jamie a lot. I respect her a lot. But surely this series, is this working? Because if they aren't getting more girls into karting, then it's not...
we don't know. It's only
don't know
working
that, but
if more girls are buying kart licenses. And that's what I desperately need to find out. Otherwise, it's just a bit of a sideshow. The girls are loving it.
Jamie's loving it.
They're going around the world. I know Jamie's earning the money. The other girls are having fashion shoots.
But the other girls are earning money. But Jamie Chadwick now, WSeries should say, fantastic, you've won it 2 years. Forget this year because she's going to win it.
Yeah, but they let her back in again. I don't know why
what they should say is, you can now go to F2 if you're not good enough for F1, but you've got to go to this. There needs to be a progression because if she's the best single seater.
But she said she couldn't get a deal. I can't believe she couldn't get a deal in Formula 3. She's got $1 million in her bank. And I think her family got a... I mean, the Formula 3 drives, their parents are paying for the Formula 3 drives. I'm sure Jamie might be able to speak to her father and mortgage the house or something. That's what every other young man driver does. You mortgage a house. Nigel did it immensely.
Men don't get these opportunities. They don't.
But I think Jamie knows. Jamie knows, I believe, sorry, Jamie, inside yourself. So you've done a single-seater series with Leclerc and a lot of young boys. You had a Prima in a Formula Regional series, And she was blown away. I mean, she knows. I think she knows. Because I think she had to give up the super license points she earned, which you need to do Formula 1. I think she had to drop them to do the third year. I believe I read that somewhere. Don't quote me. Quote me, but find that. So I think she knows. She's just loving it. She's promoting women in motorsport. Yeah. She knows she's not going to be a Grand Prix driver. So she's not going to go into Formula 3 and finish last. Because that would be too embarrassing.
She can stay at WSeries, win $500,000, or go to Formula 3.
But where do the WSeries people get their money back? The WSeries backers must have spent £500 million or £200 million. I don't know how much.
Twitter's asking this question. Twitter's asking this question, and we defend it all the time. You and I both say, if they bring more females into motorsport, it's working. But there's no stats to back that up. So it'd be good to see some stats. But... because we all want that. Everybody wants that. It'd be a brilliant thing for the sport.
I feel a bit sorry for Noda. Noda. I forgot her first name. Because she was sort of put in a Formula 3 car in Japan, which was like 11. And they said she's done the lap record time at 11-year-old in a Formula 3 car. And, she's out in W-Series now. She's finishing 16th and 17th. And I think sometimes they tell kids that they're huge, they're great, they're going to be the next best thing. And then, when it comes to the real world, and the real world in motorsport is a tough
There's
place.
No hiding. There's no hiding. When you get in that car on your own, especially when you haven't got another driver with you. But children nowadays are set up to fail in so many ways. And it's sad because at sports days, I've got two children. Sports days, you're not allowed to have a loser.
Allowed to win.
Everybody's a winner. My daughter scored 3 goals in extra time of a football match what do you call it? A league match, not a league match. What's it? Cup tie. So she's got, but she wasn't even mentioned in the write-up in the paper. And the reason because they can't single out one individuality. It's all about the team. It's wrong because life isn't like that. We're all setting them up for failing. But
anyway, talking to a team, the Ferrari team better get its act together. Why do they say Leclerc? I mean, I suppose Leclerc staying out, if you stop, someone else wouldn't have stopped, but making poor old Charles finish the race off on white. So the Ferrari team is the opposite of the team of the year. The wooden spoon for teams.
Typical Italian bonkers mentality.
Oh no!
In terms of strategy, right? Let's move to some. Can we do this quite quickly? Because NASCAR.
Yes.
Sorry, Tiff. I'm sorry. That wasn't
okay. It was a very dull race. On the top is Road America. I mean, the last Road America race, it's great to see those cars around that track, because that track is just the most awesome drivers' challenge. But normally, I know stage 1 and stage 2, they all play safe. But usually the last stage, they all start hitting each other and go for every move. And then there's green flag, yellow flags. I mean, a restart, and then the other yellow flag, then a restart. Last weekend, it was just a 2.5 hour procession. I mean, it was just nobody seemed to have... It looked like... Chase Elliott was just one of the best road course racers, was just pulling away all the time. We had Carl Larson and Tyler Reddick hanging on just about, but the last restart after stage 2, Reddick managed to get closed up. Elliott made a mistake, and Reddick got through and went on to win. And so the best thing about Road America and NASCAR was Tyler Reddick winning a race. Everybody loves him. He's another Carl Larson. In fact, when Carl Larson was suspended for a year because he made that word on his Game Boy playing machine, the Needell family supported the number 8, Tyler Reddick. We looked at the youngsters coming up, and he's famous a bit like Larson. He's one of these drivers that goes round the wall at 180 miles an hour. He goes high all the time, just stays within an inch of the wall, occasionally kissing the wall at 180 miles an hour. And I think the whole NASCAR world loves Tyler Reddick. He's been second and battling for the lead all year. So I think everyone was really happy that Tyler Reddick won, and goes on to the playoffs now. I don't know how many drivers have won. I think the playoffs, which is the top 12, or is it 16? I don't know. I think they're almost full up of winners, because the winners go direct through, and then the rest of the places are on points. But Carl Larson third, you had a good car. The number 5 was up there. But yeah, processional race. All
right. Since you're so processional, can we move to IndyCar, which is also pretty processional?
Okay. All right. Well, Mid-Ohio is famous for being also processional.
Is it? Why is it so processional?
It's a short circuit, loads of corners, very spectacular. Again, it's lovely to watch, because if you go on board an IndyCar, there's sorts of crests and hills and ups and downs. And they come over the crest with a bunch of opposite lock, and you can hear the engine revs rising, and the barrier's 3 feet away, 3 feet of grass, and then you hit the wall, So it's a great little sort of bull ring, but it is so hard to overtake, and the strategy obviously comes to a thing. But it was dominated pretty much by the Aussie Scott McLaughlin, who led most of the laps and ended up running out the last few laps, chased by Alex Palou, the champion at the moment, the Portuguese kid. He couldn't get by Scott. Will Powell was probably the story. He had a spin on the first lap and got clobbered. And he came out from dead last to finish third. So again,
wow.
Well, there's not much overtake. He was picking people off, and then when he went on the softer red tyre, the faster tyre, when others on the blacks, the slower tyre, and he picked a few people off. So you can't overtake if you're 2 drivers on the same strategy. But if you just go a bit off strategy, do the opposite to everybody else, and then pace cars get lucky for you. You haven't just pitted, and you get a safety car comes out. Pace car over there. Sorry, not safety car.
Is it tyres Firestone in IndyCar? Is that right?
Firestone. Yeah, the reds are the quick one. Yeah. But it's a spectacular circuit, great crowd, fabulous spectators, there's huge banks, where everyone sits with your motorhomes and watches. So yes, good to watch the cars, but not the most exciting race. Brits again, Callum Ilott qualified 10th. He's getting there, Callum. One car team. He's not in a big expensive team, so he's fighting his way up. But he had an engine
He's
problem.
A bloody talented driver. What about
Jack Harvey? Harvey, terrible. We'll come to Roman in a minute. Just the other Brit, Jack Harvey, just having a miserable in the Rahal team. He got promoted to the Rahal team, which used to be good, but even Rahal can't. Qualified 24th and finished 27th. Finished 20th of the 27. The girls were out there racing. The ladies. They only qualified 25th and 26th, but Simona de Silvestro was encouraging 18th, and Tatiana Calderon crashed out. Simona de Silvestro, she is the best woman at the moment in single-seater racing, in my opinion.
So why doesn't she do WSeries and just win a fortune and then put her feet up?
Wouldn't let her in, I don't think. She's probably a bit too old. Maybe they wouldn't. Not Jamie. I don't know how old they all are. But Simona's a cracking good single-seater driver. But I think she's had 5th place, her best IndyCar run, when she was in an IndyCar about 4 years ago. She's just coming back again. But in Roma, Yeah, one of the stories of Mid-Ohio wasn't so much the race, but Roman and his teammates. He had a couple, Alexander Rossi. Rossi, I think, has got chips on both. I can't believe Alexander Rossi. Sorry, Rossi fans. Sorry, but it's my opinion. Right? He's been signed up by McLaren, and yet with Andretti Motorsport, he's never really fulfilled the promise that he predicted for himself. He's quite opinionated in his own brilliance. Of course, he was briefly he did Formula 2, he won Formula 2 race, came to Europe. I liked Europe, and he got the Marussia drive in about 5 or 6 Grand Prix. But I mean, him and Will Stevens were like 4 seconds or 2 seconds off the back of the grid. I mean, 2 slow cars. But then he won Indy, didn't he? He won Daytona 500, I think, Daytona 24 hours, a sports car. But he's never really fulfilled, as I say, the promise he predicted for himself. But he's had a terrible time recently with Andretti Motorsport. I'm low on battery. Oh, low power mode. I'm running out. We talk too much. Too much. I'm on low.
Go get a DTM.
We're nearly there. So anyway, Roman tried to go around the outside. He was on Red's quicker tyres, and Rossi put him on the dirt. And then Roman tried to go around again, and Rossi drove him off the road. And then later, I think Colton also had troubles with him. So there's a big infighting at Andretti. They don't like each other. I think Rossi hates the fact that Roman is his hero from Grand Prix racing when he wasn't as good as he was. So Andretti Motorsport in turmoil, but Rossi going to McLaren surprisingly. The DTM at Norris Street, they tried to be entertaining by smashing into each other.
Not many cars finished, I don't think.
Race on Saturday, 11 cars out of 27 finished. Interesting story from René Rast, the brilliantly talented Porsche. I don't know who's with now. He was a Porsche driver. Saying ABS to fault because they're all coming down 3 abreast this famous hairpin. And of course, ABS drivers now, you just get to where you think you should smash the pedal.
Yeah.
And whether it stops or not is down to the ABS. So you can't modulate your pedal at all. And if your ABS doesn't work as well as the bloke in front of you, you just hit the bloke in front of you. So yeah, chaos in DTM, crashing, spectacular. Formula E, mustn't forget before I run out of power.
Marrakesh.
I'm power saving. See, energy saving. By we're running, I'm going on to slow mode in order I can say that I'm in bloody hell. I watch it on the telly. I mean, they go out to Marrakesh. They build a circuit with concrete and fence. There was nobody watching it. One hairpin bend, I saw 2 small grandstands. Just nobody's interested to go to watch it. It was a processional race. Eduardo Mortara won it, increasing his championship lead. Felix da Costa was second. Mitch Evans is the star with his Jaguar. He is a star. In fact, to show how almost dangerous his blooming energy saving is, I think Jean-Eric Verk, who was third, was having overheating troubles. Another reason we have to back off to cool your battery, otherwise it won't get the back. And Evans and Vern lifted off earlier than Evans was expecting, way before the braking zone, and he nearly went to the back of him. He had to just move left sharply and gain third place. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Do you want to comment before I do next week?
No.
How's my power level going?
I mean, you know how I feel about Formula E.
0.1% left.
Right, and I'll tell you, my quick
1%.
comment on Formula E is we know the drivers are unbelievably talented, some of the best drivers in the world, but the series just doesn't work for me anyway. Next week, I know where we are next week. We're at Donington.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. I'm not sure what your Donington track record's behind. Did you still Donington?
Never been there.
Never raced there?
No, haven't raced there. I've been
God.
there.
You testing? Got some testing?
Yeah, I got some testing. I'm taking it mildly seriously with 2 days testing now, which is...
All right. Well, I'll be checking Timing Solutions. Follow Timing Solutions, the best website. If you're not a motor racing fan, you want to do any sports results, Timing Solutions.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I'll be watching that, and I'll be watching the Hungarian Grand Prix and the Hungarian Formula 2 and Formula 3. World Endurance Championship is back at Monza. Again, probably with about 5 cars from the hyperclass, waiting for next year. It's not exciting yet. Wait for next year. The BTC boys and girls go curb bouncing at Knockhill. Scottish fans, Knockhill's the place to be.
In terms of that, by the way, I did say hi to Jim Glickenhaus and told him that we mention him often on this podcast.
You did?
I saw him at Goodwood. Yeah, I forgot to tell you.
Good.
Yeah.
We are a fan of him. We don't know at Monza. Has Glickenhaus got the best power, what's it called, best balance of power, or is it Alpine's turn to have a better balance of power, or is it Toyota's turn to have the better balance of power? Oh, God. And NASCAR are back on the ovals at the 1.5 mile Atlanta track. I'm sure there's other motorsport in your region, wherever you are in the world.
Let us know below
but
so we can cover it. If it's worth covering, we'll cover it. Thanks for joining. See you next
How's
week.
my power doing? Can I make the finish? We're running out of power.
Put your boost button on. Boost.
Fan boost. Give me fan boost. I need fan boost now.